Hey, good morning, Rescue Church. In just a moment, in all of our campuses, we're going to worship God with an offering. And this week, as we approach our offering, we're kind of finalizing the values we've been talking about of the Rescue Church. And the last one ties in very well with our offering time because it's excelling in generosity. We value growing in our ability to give and be generous. And I love the fact that our church is a generous church. I want to tell you about an opportunity for generosity that we're going to have next Sunday. We're going to receive a special love offering for one of our former team members in our Peoria Deaf Campus. Her name is Emily Hartzell, and in just a moment, you're going to hear from her. She's going to introduce herself to you and tell you a little bit about what her ministry is. But I just want to preface her video by telling you this. She was an awesome member of our team while she served with us in Peoria. She served our church without any compensation and did hours and hours and hours of interpreting for our Peoria Deaf Campus. She has an opportunity now where she could really use some help from us. I'm going to let her tell you about that, and I'll be back when she's done to tell you what that's going to look like next week.
Hey Rescue Church, my name is Emily Hartzell. I'd like to take just a few minutes to explain some of the ways in which God's been working in my life lately. Over the past 4.5 years, I've worked as an American Sign Language interpreter, and honestly, I love my job. I've worked in a variety of settings, but some of my favorites have been interpreting for church services as well as other ministry activities. Over the past year, I've considered that God may want to use these skills and giftings in full-time vocational ministry. This past January, I moved to Council Bluffs, Iowa to enroll in a 2-year deaf ministry training program through the organization Deaf Missions. Now, for those of you that may be unaware of what it is that Deaf Missions does, they have 3 primary ministry objectives. Now, the first objective is to translate the entire Bible into American Sign Language. The second objective is to equip men and women to become more effective church planters, missionaries, and Bible teachers within the deaf community. The third objective is to produce a variety of Christian materials in American Sign Language, everything from daily devotionals to a Christian television program for kids who are deaf. Now, that first objective, Bible translation, sometimes that's a little hard for people to wrap their minds around why that would be an important resource. And that's a fair question. One of the ways I like to explain it is, imagine you lived in another country and spoke a language other than English. If you were to move to the United States, I'm sure you'd do your best to learn to read, write, and speak English. But there's still a chance that you would have a special place in your heart, an affinity for your first language, or as those of us that work with language would call it, your heart language. The same is true for deaf individuals. Many times they feel that they can most freely express themselves when they're able to use sign, and they most readily understand information that is presented in sign language. With this in mind, my classmates and I are going to have the opportunity to travel to Israel. We'll be there for 3 weeks this fall. We'll be partnering with the Jerusalem Center for Bible Translation. The goal of this trip is to learn more about the history, geography, and culture of Israel and how that can help us become more accurate in our translation work. In order to take this trip, I'm going to need to raise $5,200. This will cover lodging, airfare, meals, and tour expenses. Another way that you can help is by praying. I would appreciate your prayers for good health and stamina for me as I will have a rigorous study and tour schedule. I'd also appreciate prayers that my heart would be tender and open to whatever it is that the Lord would like to teach me while I'm there. As I look towards the future and consider what sort of ministry work I might do upon graduation, I'm not exactly sure what direction that's going to take, but there are 2 areas that are of interest to me. The first is Bible translation work overseas. All around the world, there are over 400 different sign languages used. Sign language is not universal. Every country has their own, and some countries have more than one. Unfortunately, for the 70 million deaf individuals all around the world, only 2% of those would say that they are believers in Jesus Christ. There's still so much work to be done in this area. I'd like to look into the possibility of working to translate the Bible into another sign language other than American Sign Language. Another area that's of interest to me is Christian education. In many countries, if a deaf child is born, the parents feel that it's a curse. They'll often hide this child away and believe that he or she is incapable of learning. Missionaries have gone to various countries around the world to start schools for the deaf so that these kids can have the opportunity to learn the same things anyone else learns. Most importantly, by giving them a language, we're giving them the opportunity to learn more about Christ and the relationship that he wants to have with them. So those are two areas that I will be looking into more as these 2 years go by, to kind of see where it is, where my fit might be, where God might want me to be working. Thanks so much for watching this video and hearing how God's been moving. I appreciate each and every one of you. Bye-bye.
Well, that's exciting to hear how God's been working in Emily's life, and we're looking forward to being a church that will be part of that team that helps bless her and get her over to Israel for her continued studies. So here's what that's going to look like, Rescue Church. Next Sunday, we're going to receive a special one-time love offering, and we're just going to ask the people of our church to excel in generosity and bless one of our former team members that has done so much to help our church, specifically our Peoria Deaf Campus. So next Sunday, if you want to give to that, we're asking people to donate to the Deaf Missions Israel trip. It's very important due to IRS rules. You can't use Emily's name. So just on your check or online in the special designations, call it the Deaf Missions Israel trip. And I'm looking forward to see how once again God uses our church and our generosity to help build his kingdom.